I'm delighted to be joined now by Fintan Burke of St Thomas's in Galway, ahead of the AIB GAA All-Ireland Hurling Senior Club Championship semi-final, which takes place this Sunday, where St Thomas's will face off against Dunloy of Antrim at Croke Park at 1:30. The AIB GAA All-Ireland Club Championship features some of the toughest players from communities all across Ireland. It's these very communities that the players represent that make the AIB GAA All-Ireland Club Championships unique. Now in its 32nd year supporting the club championship, AIB is extremely proud to once again celebrate the communities that play such a role in sustaining our national games. Fintan, just thinking, after you play the semi-final against Dunloy on Sunday, will you stay on to watch the second game, or will you go and watch the World Cup final?
I definitely won't be watching the World Cup final anyway.
Would you not be a soccer man?
If it was on now, I'd put it on the background, but that'd be about it now. I wouldn't sit down and watch it.
Yeah. And would you say you've taken in much of it so far?
Bits and pieces now. When you're sitting on the couch drinking a cup of tea now, I'd flick it on, but that'd be about it now, to be honest with
you. Yeah, is it hurling and nothing else with you?
About it now, yeah. Hurling and work.
Yeah, would you play a bit of golf, a bit of soccer in the off season? No?
A bit. Time.
So hurling was always the way with you and nothing else?
I suppose, to be fair, like locally there'd be nothing else only hurling. You'd have to travel 20 minutes in the road to get any bit of football or soccer or any of that crack. So it probably helps us really, to be honest.
And what's your first memories of ever hurling?
I suppose 4 or 5 years of age, I suppose. Same memory as most lads, really. Just heading up to the pitch, whether it be training under 10s or whether it would be going up when the owl lad would be training and just poking around, I suppose, would probably be the first ones.
And who would have been your influences or heroes when you were a young lad?
I suppose when you're younger, like, you probably wouldn't know much about the county. When you're very young, I suppose it's the club lads that'll be playing, the likes of Richie Murray and them lads that'll be your neighbour, and you'd see them going training every evening.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, when you first came to the public consciousness, it was probably, were you under 20 or under 21? I remember you having a great game for Galway one day.
The one, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, did things change for you pretty quickly? Because I think it was on TG Carr. Was it maybe in Tullamore or somewhere like that? You got man in a match, and all of a sudden, I think people started to recognise who you were.
Yeah, I suppose it probably was just a standard enough minor. Probably wasn't nothing fancy, and probably was lucky enough that Tony Ward was over the under-21s the year after, and he brought me in, and I was playing in the forwards up until then, and he had put me back in the backs after seeing me with the club. And first year or two, I wouldn't say I didn't have interest, but I probably didn't really use my full potential. Kind of, I wouldn't say messing around, but just, I didn't understand what it took to get to the next level, and I probably had a hard winter, whatever. I think it was 2018 winter. I suppose I probably done a good bit of work with myself, and the cousin is a strength and conditioning coach, and he kind of took me under his wing and kind of brought me on. And in fairness, probably since then I probably haven't looked back.
And what would be your favourite position? Because we've seen you play wing forward, wing back, full back.
Anywhere about the full back line, to be honest. Full back line is a sentence.
But you're going to end up there the odd time, because there'll always be a needs must, and you'll.
Yeah. Look, I don't care. You play anywhere to help the team out, like, but it's probably the position in the field that people they don't think about, or there's just the full back line are there always, and no one takes any heed of them. But like, it's tougher when you get to play out the field, that it's harder to go back in there. Whereas if you're in there all the time, you don't realise how nice it is out the field.
Yeah, because you want to do a bit of hurling out the field, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose, like, and even the way games are gone now in winter hurling, you're literally just trying to stop lads, and with the way the game is evolving, lads are just getting quicker, and the big lads are gone. Like, you only love to see a big lad coming in wrestling, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like he's the small little nippy lads, and every team are going with the same tactic of 2 inside and pull out the third lad, and it's space everywhere. It's not a nice place to be a lot of the time.
Definitely not. So, like, your 5 in a row bid there, you got over the line against Loughrea the second day out. You had a great dive and block towards the end of that replay. What was that like, actually getting over the line with the 5 in a row?
I suppose the 5 in a row, like, I know it's a cliche, but we didn't really talk about it or think about it. It was kind of weird, even coming up to the game. It wasn't even playing on my mind that, this is 5 now, or, to be honest, it was just another county final to win. And the first game, all right, we were probably nervous. I don't know why we were so nervous. Maybe that did play on some lads' minds, and we didn't really get going. But I suppose the second day was probably just sheer relief, really, to just have to finally won it. I suppose, given that it was so tight and that it was up and down the field, to hear the final, probably sheer relief.
Yeah. So where were you? Or sorry, I presume you were only a young lad and maybe in the stands when Thomas has won that All Ireland back in was it 2012 or 13? I mix up the years.
2012 club year, but 2013 All Ireland. Yeah, I suppose
Yeah.
I was and I was only whatever 13 or 14 at the time. Like, so even memories of that, there wouldn't be. You're up in the queues, like watching the lads run around the field, play the game, and celebrate after, just wishing you could be out there.
Yeah, yeah, and like, do you have any memories of the actual game itself? I know there was a couple of red cards for
Yeah,
Kilcormac.
really, I remember. I remember Richie Murray, I think, got a goal, and we had one or two today. They almost got a goal, blocks and stuff, but nothing really. When you're a young lad, you're nearly gone to the shop more than watching the hurling game, like, till the final whistle.
I know it well. So, like, you've been like on a serious quest. From the outside looking in, it looks like you've been on a serious quest to get back there again and win another one. But there's been a couple of tough ones in the last few years. I suppose Ballyea comes to mind. The game against Lee, the two matches recently against Ballyhale. Like, it's not easy to get back to the top again.
No, I suppose not. In fairness, and it's not from a lack of trying. I suppose we just probably didn't do ourselves justice and came up against good teams along the way. Like, Ballyhale, obviously 2019 gave us a good clipping above in Croke Park, and even last year was fairly soul destroying, them beating us by last minute 21. Like, so, look, I suppose it probably manifests into motivation, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like last year, what's your memory of that last second goal from TJ Reid, the 21-yard free? What do you think happened there that he was able to score that?
I suppose some of it is down to his cuteness. I suppose Colin Fennelly's cuteness and our probably our eagerness to save the ball. I suppose ball came in and I just scanned behind me to see what the setup was like, and there wasn't too many lads at home. And I remember he went left. And I said, I'm just going to pull him down here. I said, we'll get bodies back and defend it. I thought it was the safest thing to do. And TJ was cute enough. He kind of snuck in along the 21. So he gained a few yards coming in. And we probably maybe put one or two many lads on the line. Colin Fennelly stood in the way. Gerald, in fairness, eagerness to block it, went out in front of him. One of us probably should have picked up Colin, got rid of him, and had a clear view of the ball. Three lads on the line went to block it, and all three hurlers just met. It was probably over eager, to be honest with you, trying to get over the line but I suppose memories of it. I remember I ran out to the 21 for the puck out, and Bernard, the cousin, just ran out past me, and I actually just looked at him and started laughing. I said that didn't just happen, and I don't even think we got it. I think we got one shot at an equalising score, but nothing happened. But it wasn't great.
And I suppose considering what happened in the Croke Park final when Ballyhale won with an awful lot to spare the couple of seasons beforehand, people probably went into that game thinking that you were big time outsiders, but you gave an absolute exhibition, and I think that's kind of re-established you as like a serious All Ireland force. Just that performance on its own.
I suppose not to be making excuses, like, because we don't do excuses, but I suppose in the All Ireland semi-final, or an All Ireland final against Ballyhale, we were probably unlucky, to be honest. Like, Aina obviously had that accident coming up to the game, which ruled him out, and Kenneth pulled his hamstring off the bone in the semi-final. Obviously, I did the cruciate on the day then, and like even the two goals they got at the start were fairly lucky. Like, Fennelly had two flicks, and another day the goal, would have bounced wide. I suppose, yeah, it was probably didn't do ourselves justice really on that day. So we probably used that last year to try and make a point. And then obviously Damien McGlynn had to get surgery on his shoulder last year, missing him. Shane Cooney did his knee in last year. So they all probably became motivating factors for that game, really.
Yeah. So what are you expecting from Dunloy? And did you see their game against Lochneil?
Yeah, I suppose I didn't watch it live. I watched back their matches, the county final and the Ulster final, and they kind of set up the same way as Loughrea do. They're good hurlers. They like to run with the ball. They're all sharpshooters. So fairness, like, you know what to expect. Like, they've beaten Athenry. I think they've beaten Portumna down through the years. Like, so obviously you're not going to get anything easy.
Is there? I heard talk of is Kenneth Burke getting married on Saturday?
Yeah, the younger brother's getting married Saturday. No, he was supposed to be getting married the day before the wedding, but he cancelled the wedding and moved the whole thing to the Thursday after the match.
I'm sure the lady is delighted with that.
And yeah, thank God she's a 4-time All-Star herself, because it wouldn't go down.
So, just in terms of coming back from the cruciate, was that a very difficult process? And like, was it a long time before you felt natural on the field again in terms of back to your best form?
Probably took a while, all right. Yeah, the only, like, it was probably a blessing in disguise that the lads had gone on and stayed hurling that year, say. So I obviously did it in March, didn't get surgery till April. And I remember I said to Kevin Lally Messon, I just said, I'll be back for the county final, and he started laughing at me. And kind of as the year went on, it was probably luring myself into a false sense of I'll come back for the county final, but it was something to aim for. Otherwise, you're not going to be as strict with yourself in regards to, we say, recovery and doing what you have to do. So I suppose 3 or 4 months went by and I was kind of back going fairly well, and I was doing everything to the letter of the law, and kind of was on to Dave Hanley, who was my physio, and I was annoying him saying, geez, I'll be back soon, and he was trying to tell me no. And kind of got to the quarter final then, and I went back doing a bit of training. Semi-final then, I was begging him to bring me on, but he wouldn't. And I suppose it was kind of 2-week break then again to the final, and I was back training fully, and he just said, look, he wouldn't bring me on unless I got century and got the okay from the physio or from the surgeon. So I somehow bullied my way into getting an appointment on the Wednesday, and went up and got he said, look, it's on you. If anything goes wrong, it's on you. I said, look, I'm willing to take the risk. So I was just probably lucky, I suppose, with how the game panned out, that 20 minutes to go I came on and did my bit.
Yeah, very good. And like the time you did your cruciate, you didn't go off straight away, or do I have that? Am I remembering that wrong? Did you?
It was about, I'd say there was maybe 10 minutes gone in the second half, and I felt a pop, and in fairness, it was 2 minutes kind of, I was roaring in pain, but then the pain kind of went. And I said, whatever happens, I'm not going off. And next thing you get an extra the next day and find out it was only a little click or pop in your knee. So I said, just in case it's nothing serious, I said, I'll tape it up and play on. But I'd say after, fairness, Colin Finlay was cute enough. He knew there was something wrong. He was bringing me zigzagged around the place. And after 5 minutes, then I had no choice but to go.
And are you excited about the prospect of getting back to Croker with the club? I know you've been there with the county since, but just with the club.
Yeah, I suppose like the lads you'd probably do the most training with and the most hurling with, and probably not more so for the lads that aren't playing there, say, every year, or with the county, the lads, the club player that does all the hard training sessions. But it's probably nicer to bring them boys up to Croke Park and let them see what it's all about. Like.
And your year with Galway then, what was your thoughts when you saw that Henry Shefflin was getting the job?
I suppose obviously your first thought is excitement, because like as a young lad, you'll be growing up, you'll be watching Henry on the TV and you'd be idolising him. So just to get the chance probably to learn off him and to see what he's about. And then when you hear the backroom team, Kevin Lally, Damien Joyce and the likes of them lads, you know it's a good hurling team, that a good hurling setup, say, that's been brought in. So it's probably excitement, I'd say, would be the overall feeling.
And what's he been like in the dressing room, and was he different than what you expected in the dressing room?
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to know what to expect when you first meet him. You don't know what kind of a guy he is, but I suppose after like 2 or 3 meetings, you know straight away, like, he's just a genuine sound hurling man. Like, he wants the best for Galway hurling and the best for you as a player. Like, so you can't complain that way.
Yeah, and like, how do you feel year one went? I mean, from the outside looking in, I would have thought good at times. Then the last 20 minutes of the Leinster final didn't go great, and then obviously a good performance in defeat to Limerick.
Yeah, I suppose you could say it was a good year if you wanted, but I suppose that's not what we're after. We're after All Irelands, and you didn't win All Ireland, so it wasn't a good year. Like, probably, I wouldn't say we were disappointed with the year. We got to an All Ireland semi-final. Probably should have bet Limerick if didn't turn up in the Leinster final. So, like, obviously this year we should right them wrongs as best we can.
Yeah, and were you aware of the whole handshake thing between Cody and Shefflin as the game ended, or did you notice that at all?
Honest, I heard a jeer out of the fans, but when you're after losing or after a game like that, you're not really aware of what's going on around you. You're so disappointed inside in yourself that you're nearly in your own world, kind of thing.
And just to go back to that Limerick semi-final again, what's it done for your confidence personally to perform so well against Gerard Hegarty when you see what he's done both in that All-Ireland final and the previous one against Cork?
To be honest with you, probably didn't really do much, because like, people would say to you, oh, you had a great game, but if you actually watch the game back, it was his mistakes that made me look good. Like, he probably dropped 2 balls that he normally wouldn't drop, or he took 1 shot and it went wide, and lads were saying, oh, great pressure, but you're relying on his mistakes. In fairness, like, everyone knows how good of a hurler he is. Like, all you can do is do your best, stay as tight as you can, and hope it falls out of his hand more than you take it out of his hand, really, to be honest.
And so, like, you obviously started with Cahill playing as a bit of an extra man back, and I'm sure you were just told man mark no matter where Gerard Hegarty goes, and maybe the same with the other wing back. But the way that they were able to find balls to Aaron Gallan in the half back line behind you forced you to switch things up maybe and have more pressure up the field. Like, amazing the way they were able to do that and get those balls to Gallan, and the points he scored were ridiculous.
Yeah, I suppose in fairness, anyone that can go out and score them points off Daithí Burke, like, is well entitled to do that. Like, I suppose, yeah, it's frustrating when you're trying to push up on their better players out the field, and then they're hitting good ball in. Like, from playing in the full back line, it'd be my worst nightmare watching your two wing backs go out the field because you have 40 yards of space in Croke Park with playing the best team in Ireland. Like, it is something. It's hard to figure out, or hard to find the balance between sitting back and pushing up.
And what would you hope to see from Galway next year? More players coming through? Are there players coming that we wouldn't have heard of just yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's always lads pushing through, and I think anyone that has watched any club championships, you could pick 2 or 3 players out of every team that are thereabouts that deserve a shout. But I suppose it's pushing on. It's not getting comfortable. Year 2 is when lads can get comfortable. The first year is exciting, and the second year is kind of where lads can slack off a small bit. It's all about pushing on and seeing, can you go that one step further.
And do you think there's another year or two in the likes of Joseph Cooney, who had a great year, and Davy Burke, who had a brilliant season?
Absolutely. Like, I suppose when you look at the likes of older players, the World Cup, you see Messi and these boys playing on, like Thiago Silva, these boys are 39 and still doing the business. Like, there's no reason why lads like that can't find a place in the GAA.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking there, what's your favourite part of hurling? Is it snapping a high ball or driving over a point from distance, or what do you enjoy?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Probably wouldn't be most lads' most enjoyable thing, but probably dirty old ruck ball where the 5 or 10 lads stuck in the middle of it, and it's all about who wants it the most. Like, the easier thing is to slide over points from 40 yards, or taking sidelines or any of that crack. Like, that's kind of, it's more skills based. But when you're in the rough and the muck inside in Pearse Stadium or wherever it is, I think that's when when I really enjoy it.
But it's hard to beat a good high ball.
It is hard to beat a good high ball. The problem is every lad is getting too good at it now. Lads are too up with their hands now. It's all up with the hurls.
And they don't hit in 50-50 balls for the half-backs anymore, do they?
Oh, no, them days are gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sickening. So you work as a tradesman, do you? What exactly do you do?
Work as an electrician, yeah.
Right, okay. And do you do that locally or travel all around the county?
Local enough. The cousin, Colin Burke, owns the company. We've about 70 or 80 lads working for us now, in fairness. So based in Galway most of the time, inside in the city. So in fairness, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and is it labour intensive, or is it all right compared to other trades?
Hence, with the first few years, probably kind of shying away from the tools now a small bit, which is helping a good bit. But it's it's enjoyable work. In fairness, the lads we're working with are good old crack, and it pays the bills, so I can't complain.
And would you have ever had any accidents with when you're in the middle of work?
Nothing too crazy. Just try and mind yourself coming up to matches and stuff, and stay away from the dangerous stuff if I can.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, it's been great chatting to you, Fintan, and best of luck at the weekend.
100%. Thanks, man.